Brock
Well,
Brockkerman. What an honor.
what an honor it is for me here to the album Harder They Strum quite a bit and really enjoying it. And I wanted to ask what's it like? You've been on so many albums and so many things. What's it like having your own project? I saw it was your first ever solo release.
Well, there was a solo single back in Jamaica in 1985, but you can get it on those used record sites, but it's not even on YouTube. It was called Skateland Rock and Too Sweet for Words, and it actually got a lot of play on Jamaican radio, but I never followed it up with an album, which was the plan. And a bunch of things happened, and I left Jamaica about 6 months after it was released, and they kept playing it about a year after I left, which was nice. But after that, I came back to America, and we had children, and we were raising children and feeding children and educating children, and there was no discretionary income for solo careers. So that's why there was this, I don't know how long that came out, 2018. So 85 to 2018 is 33-year gap between releases.
Mr. Mark and I have a lot of projects there. We don't have quite that time span there, but I definitely can relate with things you want to do, but you have to just kind of put things on the back burner. One thing I wanted to tell you is looking through your discography and your catalog, and you do such a great job of cataloging. It's actually been inspiring to us with our with what we're doing, just kind of keeping track of that stuff. You're very good at that, and I just didn't know if you have any tips of writing things down or.
Well, actually, it's pretty interesting. The way I did the discography was when we were in Jamaica recording all as often as we were running from studio to studio and recording, as many as 10 or 15 songs a day. And once we heard the playback in the studio, we didn't necessarily ever hear it again or know what happened to it or even know if it was released. And so we didn't really keep up on it then. And when I left Jamaica and came back here, I had very little idea of what I'd played on. So back in when the web came out and people started doing websites, I thought, I really, at some point, I'll need a website. And one of the things that is going to be useful is a discography. And I did keep a session diary while I was in Jamaica, and I kind of lost track once I got back here, but I do have a handwritten record of at least the sessions I played on, the producer, and if I knew the name, which I didn't always, the artist. But those are things that I recorded, and not everything you record gets released. In fact, some of the things that I recorded didn't come out until 35 years later. But what I did that was very helpful, once the internet came out, the other thing that happened was I discovered this English society called PRS, which is the Performing Rights Society. And in America, you don't get paid for performances on records beyond the initial whatever you got for the record. So, for example, if you hear some 60s singer whose one hit is played on oldies radio all the day after day, they aren't necessarily getting any money from that song as the artist. If they wrote the song, they're getting money or published it, but just to perform it, they don't get money. But in England and Europe, other parts of the world, they do. So somebody explained to me that this existed, and I thought, well, I played on all these records. Maybe some of them are popular in England. Who knows? So I started going on the internet and auto-Googling. And these things started coming up. And what I ended up doing was just opening a text file on my computer And as I found information online, I would just cut and paste it into the text file. And then when I was done for that particular day looking for things I played on, I would save the text file. So I always had this text file open of things to cut and paste, the catalog number and the name of the label and so on and so forth. And it got pretty complicated because Jamaicans have a lot of trouble with my last name for some reason. And most of them knew me as Andy or the white guy or whatever, the guy that played with We the People. So sometimes my actual name didn't make it to the record. So it would just be my first name or some garbling of my last name. So if you look at my entry in Discogs, you'll see a lot of different spellings of my name from various records.
Well, that I wanted, just speaking of which, real quick, I had said that I might ask you something about a parallel universe, and what I wanted to know is if you think that somewhere on a parallel universe there's an Andy Bassford who plays bass primarily.
Oh, I've never been asked that question.
Well, it keeps me up at night, I'll tell you. I don't know, things like that for some reason. I don't know, and it's not even my name. I just,
Well, we could Google it, I guess. Hold on a minute. Let me check on the phone.
And Andy Bassford.
Andy Bassford. Let's see if there's any.
Might not even be a parallel universe. It might be right here on this planet.
Or there might be a leak, like those. I forget what they're called. Something to do that happens with your intestines, fissures.
A fissure. Yes.
There might be fissures between the universes. A bit Bassford. Okay.
Wait a minute here.
No, there's. This is crazy. Student recital, and then there's a thing of Horace Andy on this. Now this is crazy. So what's going on with this? Why would I don't know. I'd have to go into this further.
He said Fisher, and so the Pickle Pirate just stepped out of the blue here. So I was like summoned here.
Are you from a parallel universe, sir?
Well, I am. Let me do this, Brock, for a second. Sorry, I just, everybody here wants to talk to you at some point, and my name is Dillbeard, the Pickle Pirate, and also a fan. And,
I'm honored. Thank you, Dillbeard.
Speaking of pirates, have you ever had a lot of trouble with people pirating your music and that kind of thing?
Actually, yes. There is a performance. I won't name it because I don't want anybody buying it. But there's actually a performance of my band backing a very famous Jamaican musician at a very famous reggae festival. That was pirated from the original videotape.
Oh.
And it was a mess. But that was us accompanying somebody. So basically what that meant was we didn't get paid for the recording session, which is the way it should have gone. In terms of my own record, I did see it up on some of those BitTorrent sites and things like that. And there's apparently a cease and desist form that you have to fill out, and you can send it to them saying, I'm the rights owner. You have no right to put it up here. Take it down. And basically, it's like whack-a-mole.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to look for them every week. And if it turns up on a new one, you have to go to all the trouble of filling out the form again and mailing it to them and then checking back a day later to see if they've taken it down. And they're mostly good about taking it down, but they wait for you to complain first.
Exactly. All that stuff is, but now with all the record companies and all that stuff and not getting that much of your, percentage of streaming and all that stuff, we're not making much with streams and all that stuff anyway. So
no, I did it for a while, and then the record, I wouldn't say it's run its course because it's still getting played on the satellite radio. But in terms of vinyl sales, it's really tailed off in the last year. So not vinyl so much, but the CD sales. Vinyl, I think it's pretty steady. Um, and the vinyl mix is different from the CD mix, and in some cases they're quicker fades. In other cases, they're actual alternate mixes, and there's a bonus track on the vinyl. I don't know if they've gotten around to uploading all that stuff, but the a record has a life or sort of an initial excitement period, and where everybody that you think is going to buy the record runs out and buys it or tells their friends, and you get it gets reviewed and people start talking about it, and then somebody else puts out another good record and they start talking about that one, which is fine. So at that point, I think people putting it up on the pirate sites, it's pretty much harmless. Not that I want to encourage people to do it, but um, I don't think it affects my income stream that much by them doing it. And it might actually get me heard places where I wouldn't otherwise be on the radio. So I don't know.
Right. Well, hopefully, you'll get that broccoli bump after this interview, and you'll get a whole bunch more dreams. And
right. I might, there might be a whole vegan market that I could tap into, or
there is.
Or what's the generic word for broccoli? Is it a crucifer or something like that?
Cruciferous. Yes.
Cruciferous. Yeah.
Yes.
Maybe there's a whole subculture of cruciferous reggae fans that I might tap into. Oh, who is this gentleman or woman?
I just my wig fell off. I'm sorry. I didn't realize that it fell off, and I didn't think anybody was going to notice that I was wearing a wig. And oops, sorry about that. I just got a haircut. I mean, what I meant to say was I got a haircut in the meantime while Bill Beard was talking to you. The Brocklifarians is what
Brocklifarians, yes.
Yes, and
a subculture I'd be happy to tap into.
Indeed. Well, the last time I saw you, you were playing at Waterman's Brewery, and that for a festival. Do you miss the festivals? Have you?
I miss everything.
Yes.
I've been playing. Oh gosh. I would say from the time I was a junior in college, I've probably been playing 100 nights a year or more. So that was 75. So 45 years, is that right? Yeah, 45 years, 100 to 200 nights a year to nothing. It's a shock.
Yes. It's been a lot of musicians are struggling with it and having to be creative and adopt and adapt and do new things. I was going to say I saw online that you do lessons, virtual lessons, and is that still going on?
Oh yeah, I yes, I have people from all kinds of strange places. I have a student in Barcelona, if you can believe that.
Oh, wow.
And a fellow that used to study with me here in New York, and he emigrated after the virus, and he's living in Barcelona and playing there. He still contacts me for lessons. And then I had a guy in Montana and some people in California, and there's one in Dallas, and a fair amount in New York. And then I also teach at an art center in the Bronx, and that's gone online as well. And one of my students there has actually moved to Baltimore. So basically, if you have an internet connection, I'm happy to teach you.
Well, on that note, I'm going to hand it over. This guy's pulling at my tie over here. This young man. This is Mr. Mark's nephew. His name is Junior Carrot, and he wanted to ask you specifically. Yes, he wanted to find out. Thank you. Hey guys, oh my gosh, they said it was you, and I didn't believe it. But so anybody could go and get a lesson. Like anybody could go. And how much does it cost? And I'm gonna see if I can and talk to my mom about it, because I'm real interested in learning.
Okay, the lessons, contact me through my website, www.andybassford.com, and that's spelled Andy, B as in boy, Assford. So, like the fish and the car, Bassford. The lessons are $50 an hour or 25 for a half hour.
Sounds reasonable.
It's for somebody with my track record in New York. It's highly reasonable, but
Absolutely. That sounds like a steal, like a bargain.
well, it's I think about raising them, but then it's not. A lot of people aren't working, so I think it's kind of a good compromise between what I could charge and what people can pay.
Absolutely. Well, what are some of the basics? Like you might start off. Can you start off for like beginners and stuff too? People who've never.
Sure. My youngest student is 6, and my
Oh
oldest
wow.
is in his late 60s.
Okay. Yeah, that's how old I am. Is 6.
Okay, well, what I do with my younger students is we explore the nature of sound coming from a stringed instrument. I explain how the instrument works. In the first lesson, I teach the rest stroke, which allows you to get a very good sound very quickly without a lot of knowledge. And then I explain some things about uh, the physical layout of the instrument and where the notes are. And then I show you simple things that you can play depending on how strong your hands are when you start. And that has a lot to do with how fast you can go with the beginners, how strong their hands are.
Well, that's a great start, and people can start, and then they can get better and better, and one day they'll be like you, and like play on all kinds of albums.
Well, hopefully they'll play better.
Well, you're just being modest. Hey, they want to put somebody else on real quick. I'm sorry.
Okay, Junior, a pleasure to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Oh, wow. Who is this?
This is hey, this is Cornelvis. Cornelvis
Cornelvis.
Presley.
Yes.
Hey, all right.
Corn
Yeah.
Elvis.
And he's got moving arms. Whoa.
Whoa.
So
And what a hairdo. This guy.
I like to keep my silks silky smooth. My corn top. My corn. Oh my goodness. I'm cracking myself up here. All right.
Somebody's got to do it.
So we never heard that story. We never heard that story about the
grapes. Oh yeah. Okay, so it's a lot better than when I started touring, and I started touring in 1980. And in 1980, if you went outside of a major city, it was very hard to find non-fast food. For example, there are lots of different ethnic groups in America, and they're a lot more widely spread now than they were 30, 40 years ago. And so if you were in some place like Riverside, California, which has a lot of Mexicans, you could get Mexican food, and there was probably somebody there with a Chinese restaurant, but you would not be able to get maybe Thai food or whatever. And and I like eating different things. So this was an adjustment for me when I started touring. And mostly what was available to us was fast food. And when you tour with Jamaican bands, or at least the guys I came up with, there were two kinds of acceptable food on the road that weren't Jamaican. And those were Kentucky Fried Chicken or Chinese food.
Oh,
so I don't mind Kentucky Fried Chicken, but I don't want to eat it every day. And they would go to McDonald's in a pinch, but really what they wanted was chicken. So very early on, I developed the skill of hunting out things that were not Kentucky Fried Chicken or Chinese food. So one of the things that I used to do was go, if we were at a mall, there's generally a supermarket in the mall, and I would run to the supermarket and get. Oh, this was a staple for a whole tour one time. Uh, we did a reggae sunsplash tour, and the per diem was $10 a day, and this was 1988 or something like that. And even in 1988, $10 a day didn't get you very far.
Right.
So what I did was I went to a supermarket and I got a loaf of good whole wheat bread and a jar of Smucker's peanut butter, which is just peanuts and salt, and apples. And that was it. That was breakfast. That was lunch. And I got on the bus with this stuff, and everybody started laughing at me. And 2 days later, they were like, "Can I get a sandwich?" So the grape story is we were touring in the part of California, and I'm blanking on Modesto, that the San Joaquin Valley, I think it's called, where they have lots and lots of agricultural stuff. And the this time I was in the Maytals, and those guys were a lot more were more flexible about food than the earlier guys. Excuse me. So we were in a tour bus, and we were driving through the San Joaquin Valley, and we had we were ahead of schedule, which didn't always happen. So we saw this big fruit stand, and one of the guys said, "Hey, pull over. Maybe there's something that we could, that we could get." And we pulled over, and there were all kinds of California type fruits, including grapes. So I stocked up on all of them, and they had a particular favorite of mine, which oddly enough is fresh corn. And
what? Wait, corn? Fresh corn?
Fresh corn.
Wait a minute. Did you plan this, Mr. Mark? You talking about the corn and me being the corn?
It's pure coincidence.
Corn incident. I like to call those corn incidences. Sorry.
It was a corn incidence, yes. So my mom used to adore eating corn when I was a kid, and Connecticut has really good corn. So we would go out and get 24 ears for a 4-person family, and my mother would eat anywhere from a dozen to 16 of them.
Whoa, a lot of corn.
A lot of corn. And we had a Siamese cat who used to watch her shuck the corn, and she broke off one of the ends of the corn because it had a worm in it, and the cat went for the ear of corn and started eating it. And we looked at the cat and went, "Cats eat raw corn?" And my mother said, maybe he's on to something. So she took out a bite out of the ear that she was husking, and she said, "This is really good. You don't need to cook corn."
I like corn raw.
So anyway, I stocked up on a dozen ears at this roadside stand of corn, and the guys are saying, "Where are you going to cook that?" I said, "You don't need to cook it. Watch." And I ate a couple of ears in front of them, and they couldn't believe it. And I said, "You're welcome. I got a dozen. You want some?" And they were go, "No, we need it cooked." And what Jamaicans do with corn is they make soup out of it, and they throw it into the soup, and the ears just stay for hours and hours and hours and get impregnated with all the juices and so on.
I'm hungry right now.
But the other grape story is there was this club in Ithaca called The Haunt, which just closed, unfortunately. And this was the original guy who owned the Haunt was a big reggae fan. So every reggae fan that went through Western New York would go to The Haunt and do a gig. And one day, I think it was my first year or two with Toots, and I'd been there with We the People and Dennis Brown, and I'd been there with Yellow Man. So that was 89. So this would have been 90 or 91. Anyway, the Finger Lakes, that area of Western New York, is known for its grapes. They do a lot of wine in upstate New York. And it was a pretty rough tour. It was a van tour, we were pretty beat up by the time we got to the haunt. And John always made sure we had good food. Uh, so he brought in the regular food, and then he brought in this enormous bowl like this, and it was full of wine grapes that had been picked like 3 hours before.
Oh, nice.
And we were staring at it, and the road manager said, "Well, that's not on the rider, but thanks." And John said, "I'm from here, and I always tell people how good our grapes are, and I'm really proud to be able to, to bring them in here and give them to people who might appreciate them." So we went through the grapes. That was it. It was like a tornado.
Great fuel. It was a great fuel frenzy on stage after that.
It was a grape. It sure was. Grape and other vegetables.
So we have a picture of our first meeting together, Mr.
Oh, excellent.
Mr. Mark and me and you at the New Kingston, and that was a great show. That was a great day.
It really was.
I miss those festivals too. Used to play all over Wilmington. I haven't been able to make it to tour very much or anything, but I miss the local shows and festivals and all that. But we'll have to do it again though. We'd love to have you back in Wilmington.
I really had a great time. I would love to go back. I actually spoke with Steve on New Year's Eve. He gave me a call from New Kingston.
I was going to ask how those guys were holding up.
Well, those guys have the most amazing work ethic on the planet. So whether you see them or not, they're working on music and they're taking care of their families.
Hanging in his house, and I knew you were a Maytal and wanted to make something very special for you. Do you have any memories of that, specifically of Toots there?
Oh gosh, we'd be here for the next 3 days. Let me see.
Maybe one favorite.
Oh, okay. This is a great G-rated one.
Oh yeah, what we need here.
Okay. This is you'll love. This actually happened. Toots's audience in America tended to consist of people my age who found out about him in the 70s through these recordings on Island or The Harder They Come. And then people my kids' age who got into him, I guess, through college radio or osmosis or something, and went to the shows because it was so good to dance to.
Oh, yeah.
And then there was a smattering of even older Jamaicans who were fans of his original music going back to the ska days. So depending on the size of the Jamaican population in whatever town we were in, you might get an audience that was as much as 30-40% Jamaican to an audience that had like maybe 4 or 5 Jamaicans in it and everybody else was an American. So on this particular show, we were playing at a club in Springfield, Massachusetts, and it was a small club with a downstairs and then a balcony section. And at that time we had, it's actually the same band. If you've ever seen the Toots live at Santa Monica Pier, there's 2 Toots videos that were done at the same venue, I think something like 10 years apart. And in one of them I have a ponytail and I'm playing lead guitar, and the other one I have my hair like I have now and I'm playing rhythm guitar. But the band in the first video was Val Douglas on bass, one of Jamaica's great bass players, Paul Douglas on drums, who's been with Toots since day one pretty much, Bernie Pitters from Toronto on keyboards, and my old friend Doogie Bryan from Channel One on rhythm guitar. So all of these people have extremely highly developed senses of humor, which is important to what happens next. So we go on stage at this club, and we're playing mostly the songs for the younger audience, because that was what the majority of the people were. But there was this older Jamaican contingent up in the balcony, and Toots always used to end his show with 54-46. That was always the last song, because that was the big hit.
Okay.
So from the first song of the show, there's this Jamaican guy up in the balcony going, 54-46, Toots, play 54-46, play it now, man, 54, that me come for here, you know, right? So we would play whatever song we were going to play, and people would clap, and then we'd get ready for the next song, and you'd hear the guy, 54-46, Toots, play it now, man. And Toots was cool, didn't say anything, you know, just looked at the guy. And the third or fourth time it happened, he said, you know, that's the last song and we will play it, but, you know, be patient. We have the rest of the show to go through. So we do another song and we hear 54-46, and now Toots is getting a little annoyed. He, you know, doesn't say anything, but I knew the guy really well, and I could tell he was kind of had enough of the guy. So we play the song. So we're about 6 songs into the show, and we hear, let's see. Yes, I was on the right-hand side of the stage with Doogie, as you can see in the video, stage right. And Bernie and Paul and Val were on the stage left. So right before the next song, Paul's getting ready to count it off, and he goes, 1, 2, and we see this thing come out of the balcony, and it lands on stage left. And Paul and Bernie and Val double over with laughter. And Toots sees this thing, and he always had a handkerchief to mop his face off. And he goes down with the handkerchief and picks this thing up and throws it up in the balcony where it came from. And we don't hear any more 54-46 for, like, you know, it's silent. But we can't play the tune because the left side of the stage can't stop laughing.
What was it?
So they're convulsed. The show literally had to stop for almost 5 minutes while these guys. And Toots wasn't being any help at all. You know, he was just looking around like, are you guys going to stop laughing so we can play and finish the show? And finally, when Paul got his breath back first, and I said, Paul, what's wrong? Are you guys okay? And he goes, the teeth. And I go, what teeth? He goes, you never saw the teeth. I go, no, what teeth? He goes, the guy who was yelling 54-46. He said, Poof, and the teeth came out of his mouth and they fell on stage in front of Ducky.
Oh my goodness gracious!
and Paul was counting off the tune, and then he saw Dougie wasn't standing up to look at him, and I said to Dougie, "What happened?" He goes, "Why, me ready for play, you know." And then me see one set of teeth in front of me, man. I look up on me, and I can't start playing. The teeth just come. The teeth step on the stage. Look upon me, man. We couldn't play. So Toots had his eye on the 54-46 guy, had seen the teeth come flying out of his mouth when he said, Poof. Seen them land on the stage. And Toots was a real germaphobe. You know, that stuff really flipped him out. So, of course, he picked it up with a handkerchief and threw them back up in the balcony, I guess, hoping they would get back to the
oh my goodness
to the owner.
I think that's got to be one of the top stories. Just out of curiosity, did they look anything like this?
They did. They did. Well, actually, you know, I didn't see them clearly because they landed on the other side of the stage. I only saw them come down and go back out.
But one can only assume that they look similar to these chompers here.
Yes, and I don't think they were well fitted because they They
It flew.
they didn't stand up to repeated 54, 46 requests.
Well, that
So we never found out if the guy got his teeth back. But
that
we
is,
didn't hear
but
any
he,
more
but he,
requests for 54, 46
but he
for
was,
the rest of
he
the
was,
night.
it was quiet afterward. So,
Right.
oh my goodness, that is quite a story. That was a good story.
But things
Oh,
like this used to happen all the time. And
I'll show you this too. This could be Yellow Man as well. This is a banana pepper who's a broccoli.
oh, that looks much more like him.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, he's
But you got to have the platinum hair.
yeah.
But that actually the expression, the eyes. Oh my God, that's
Yeah.
like.
So I got two of them. I'm teaching a puppet making and prop making class here coming up soon at the art museum here. But some of the things I'm doing are just that kind of looks like it. But some of them, so they're like the Banana Brothers, and
Oh God, he looks
this guy
like,
loves this guy loves belts and bandanas, and then this guy loves hats, and then they're just kind of, you know.
the guy on the left. It's like that guy. That
I had a question for oh, by the way, Junior Carrot here, Daily News Reporter. I mean Broccoli News Reporter. So we have Andy Bassford here, and he wants to tell us a little bit about essentially what reggae music, what distinguishes it from other genres. If he'd be so kind, Mr. Bassford.
okay. It's a big question. There is a musical answer, and then there's a historical and cultural answer, and maybe that's what I should start with. Reggae music is a style of music created by Jamaicans and other people living in Jamaica and working in Jamaica in the early 60s. And it was created as a response to Jamaica's independence. So, from being a British colony. So, with reggae, there's always an element of freedom in the music, whether it's in the lyrics or not. It's about being free and determining your own destiny.
I like that.
And it's also about Jamaican life and Jamaican culture and Jamaican expressions. And musically, it is a gumbo actually. It has influences from mento, which is a traditional Jamaican string band music, Rastafarian rhythms, Buro rhythms, and Nyabingi rhythms, American jazz, American R&B of the 50s, American popular music of all sorts like Nat King Cole, some English popular music. There are some Latin influences. It's really a mixture of a lot of different cultural elements, which is like Jamaica itself. Jamaica itself has many ethnic groups, and the national motto is out of many, one people. And you could say the same thing about the music. It could be created nowhere else but Jamaica, but if you examine all the elements that are in it, they come from all over. And perhaps because the music has so many elements from so many different places, it's now spread all over the world to the point where non-Jamaicans like me play it. And there are reggae bands all over the globe now. It's not just musicians from Jamaica that play it, although it did originate there, and those are the people who set the standards for it.
Oh, well, that was a really good explanation, and I'm going to share this with my class. Hey, there's a word you said that it sounded really fun to say, and I want to say it really loud, and maybe you can tell me what it means. Okay, Nyabingi.
Oh, Nyabingi.
That sounded really fun to say. I just wanted to say it.
Nyabingi is, I'm not sure what language it comes from. I think it's African in origin. It's related. It's a description of a religion, part a chapter of the Rastafarian religion. It's also a description of a particular rhythm, and the rhythm is used in Rastafarian gatherings and religious services. But it's
Okay.
also it's also made its way into popular music recordings.
Well, it just sounds so fun to say. I'm gonna say it probably a lot until somebody tells me to stop. Like they're always saying I talk all the time and everything. That's why they don't let me do the interviews sometimes because I interrupt sometimes. Okay, well, thank you very much for your explanation of reggae music, and I wish you all the best in the new year. And yeah, if you're ever in Wilmington, come hang out with us, veggies.
Thank you, Junior. It was an honor to see you and your friends, and to work with Mr. Mark on his projects, and we will hopefully continue.